Hey guys. So I just kind of wanted to make this little intro before I show you guys the video. If you want to skip to it, whatever. This is an unfinished video. I do plan on like going back and remaking it. Haha, kind of ironic, right? Remake of a remake video. Anyways, I like to show off older content that I make. A lot of the time, you can see by my channel, a lot of it's just unfinished old stuff. I don't know why I don't finish a lot of things. I think I just get too busy in life or I have other things going on. But anyways, I just wanted to show off this older video. I like doing that. I like seeing older videos or unfinished projects from people. Well, I mean, I prefer to see the finished project, but I do like watching like unfinished stuff because it's like, oh, what could have been, blah blah blah. So yeah, enjoy the video. Hope you like it. I got bigger things coming.
What's up, y'all? Right now I'm sick as fuck and I have a horrible knot in my shoulder, like preventing me from doing any kind of brick film stuff. Because with brick film, I use my arms a lot, like I extend them because of the length between me and my table. My table's pretty fucking big. And because I have to extend my arms, my knot in my shoulder is really preventing me from using my arm a lot of the time. So I want to try something different. Talk about video games. I've been wanting to do this for a while, but just never had the confidence or drive to make videos like this for a while. So I want to make a little simple video talking about my favorite video game series, Resident Evil, and its remakes, and what I think is the best and the worst, so just a quick little video. And also because Requiem's super close, I think like 2 weeks, why not talk about Resident Evil? I'm gonna rip off Jordan underneath and say this month is officially Resident Evil month. Well, actually it's March because that's when the very first Resident Evil game came out, but whatever. I also want to make it a point that this video is in my opinion, so you don't have to disagree with me. Feel free to disagree with me. I'm all about discussing what's better and what's worse. But just don't be a fucking asshole. Like, there's no reason to. You're wasting your time. I'd rather dedicate my time more to somebody who makes valid points instead of calling me a dumbass because I have a different opinion than them. But with that being said, let's rank this shit. With no surprise, the last place goes to the Resident Evil 3 D-Make. And I call it a D-Make because it doesn't really improve a lot on the original Resident Evil. The original was such a fucking masterpiece, dude. And when I heard they were remaking the best game in the original trilogy, I was like, yo, this shit's gonna be fire as fuck. Resident Evil 2, the remake, was such a good step in the direction. It improved on a lot of things from the original, and even if things were cut, it didn't stop it from being such a great remake. Like Under the Mayo says, it proved that survival horror in the 21st century could be done. So I was expecting the same thing from the Resident Evil 3 remake, to improve on the original. And you know how I felt after playing this remake, or how others felt after playing this remake? Disappointment. I feel like I should give credit where credit's due, because there's stuff that they do improve on from the original, and to be honest, there's some good stuff in this game. For starters, the gameplay is so fucking fun and addicting as the Resident Evil survival horror era games should be. I'm not gonna lie to you, I've spent hours in this game exploring every room until 100% completion. Every area I'm in, I've spent so much time, even if it's linear and just small and whatever, I still explore it. The gameplay is similar to Resident Evil 2 Remake, but it works because the game is still fun to play as Resident Evil 2 Remake's gameplay was amazing. The dodge mechanic is also such a massive improvement from the original, since the original was kind of clunky to use. Easy for me, of course. In this game, it's improved a lot more, especially when you're in a tough spot with like no ammo or you're kind of surrounded. If you get a perfect dodge, you get like this reflex mode from Metal Gear Solid 5, which is kind of cool, but I never really use it. Carlos and Tyrell are much better in this game as they have more character and better dialogue than they did in the original, and they kind of just establish a lot more of the chemistry between the two. Palehead Zombies make a return from the Survivor mode, which is fucking awesome, and it makes sense in the context of the Resident Evil lore, because that's something that would run around underground in an umbrella lab. The Clock Tower boss is pretty fun, and in my opinion, the only good boss fight in the game, really. As most of modern Resident Evil games, the weapons feel really fucking good. Like, I don't think I've ever not had fun using any of them. Maybe the shotgun, because it's not as powerful as it was in the original, where you could just enter a room and just blow apart a shit ton of zombies in the same room. But at the same time, you can still blow their fucking heads off, so, I mean, that doesn't bother me. You still have ammo crafting and gun parts, which makes it more fun to explore environments more and more. The save music is still a fucking banger. Like, I don't think Resident Evil has ever had a bad save room song. And you can hear it a lot more in this game than you can in like Resident Evil 2 Remake. And I love the chemistry between Robert Kendo and Jill, since it makes sense because Kendo was the one who made the STARS weapons, 4 stars. But that's really the only good stuff I have to say about the game, because there's so much fucking wrong with this game. For starters, and the biggest criticism this game has is the cut content, and they cut so much of it. The level design is so half-assed and linear to the point where it's not even a city. It's town from Black Ops 2. Sure, I said it's fun to explore the areas, but I still hate that there's not much to explore in these areas. Resident Evil 4 and 5 were more linear games and had more things to explore in the first few sections of the game than the Resident Evil 3 Remake's Raccoon City. The original was so open, it had so many areas, like half the time you didn't know where the fuck you were going, which was the point of the Resident Evil survival horror games. Cut areas in this game have got to be the biggest sin the remake has ever committed. Stuff like Uptown Raccoon City, the fucking Clock Tower, Raccoon Park, and the Dead Factory. Sure, the remake has more areas, but they're so linear that it all blends together and makes the game feel like it has less areas. Less is more in the original's case. You spend literally half the game in Raccoon City. Why the fuck is it so cut down? The monsters are such a huge letdown too. Sure, the original had the same enemies as 2, but there's much bigger threats stalking you in the game and you could literally get overwhelmed by a bunch of them. Not to mention, the remake doesn't really have any interesting new enemies like the Paleheads. You get the typical zombies and dogs. You have the Drain Damos, but restricted to one area. You have the pea shooters from Plants vs. Zombies, which are just annoying rather than scary. You have Darwin from the world of Gumball. Out of all these enemies, I'm more interested in the Paleheads and the old enemies rather than I am the new ones. Something like the Geodolt from the original Resident Evil 2, which was such a lame-ass boss fight, they gave Bro such a big glow-up and made him an enemy, and it works so much more than the original. I know a big issue people have are the spiders and gravediggers being cut, but honestly, those being cut wouldn't have made the game worse because Resident Evil 2 cut the spiders, the moths, the evolved lickers, and was still such a kick-ass remake. And look how they treat the fucking main antagonist, Nemesis. This ain't Nemesis, this is Bitchesis. Took probably the most anxiety-inducing Resident Evil stalker and just nerfed him down, butchered the fuck out of him. Like, for starters, look at him. He looks like Nigel from the Wild Thornberries, which Yeti112 made a joke about that, so go watch him instead, he's better than me. This isn't creepy or intimidating, this is fucking goofy. Sure, Nemesis isn't scary looking in the original, but he was still intimidating looking. He had a unique look to him. Gosh damn, don't even get me started on how they portray him. They build him up in such a half-assed way just to get the point that Nemesis is in the game. The way he acts in the cutscenes are just so fucking dumb. Instead of killing Jill every chance he gets, he just toys with her aura farms. I'm sorry, but this is not how you write Nemesis. Nemesis was
But
made
this is just filler content.
Umbrella
It kind of
to
just,
kill
keeps the
remaining
channel
STARS
active,
members
even though
in
the
Raccoon City.
videos probably don't
He
get that
didn't
many
toy with
views. It's just,
Jill.
I like to
He
keep
was
my channel
fucking
active.
dedicated,
Well,
and
now
that's
I
what
do,
made
back
him
then I
threatening.
didn't.
Not
but
to mention, Nemesis is just so fucking predictable and easy to avoid unless you're playing harder difficulties. But they just buff him up and make him more annoying than intimidating, which is probably the lamest shit you could ever do. No fucking cap, OG Nemesis would take half your fucking ammo when fighting him, and when you least expect it, he'd show up and not get you off your ass 95% of the time. You know how you can take Nemesis down in the remake? One fucking grenade. The main antagonist of the game, guys. You know what made Mr. X scary in the original Resident Evil 2? They made him an actual good fucking unpredictable stalker. And they had the codes, they had everything they could use from Resident Evil 2 Remake and put it into 3, and 3 would have been amazing. His introduction was also intimidating, establishing what kind of monster he is when he first pops up and how he kills Brad. Brad just gets fucking bit by a zombie and dies. Like, Nemesis already lost all his intimidation, and now you're gonna make him lose more of it? What made Nemesis so tense in the original was because he was hard to kill. He was fast and unpredictable. Sure, he was scripted, but they pace it so well. It made you feel like you were being watched, like he could pop up out of nowhere and you wouldn't expect it. The dude could literally follow you anywhere, even in puzzle areas. That's not fucking allowed. Unless it's a safe room. Nemesis can't even go inside of buildings and can only chase you outside. Homie, what? And the scripted segments are so predictable, and scripted he just fails as a stalker enemy, where the original succeeded. And his scripted segments are so predictable. Like I said, dude, you could take what they had with Mr. X, where he wasn't scripted, he was just there. He was just there, and he'd chase after you, and he would pop up without anyone expecting it. That would have been so much better for Nemesis, but they didn't do that. They cheaped the fuck out. Besides the clock tower boss fight, his fucking boss fights are such a joke and are just so annoying to do. Shoot his fuel tank and then unload on him. Wow. So original, guys. So cool and different. No! I know in the originals you could just shoot the bosses till they died, but it made sense because you couldn't control the camera, and Resident Evil 4 kind of established the whole weak spot thing. So tell me why I'm just unloading on Nemesis' dumb ass. Give the guy a weak spot. It would have made the boss more challenging. Clock Tower boss fight is literally recycled for the Nest 2 boss fight. And the final boss, oh my god, it's so bad. Thank god Death Island made that railgun so much better in the movie. And the remake is so bad and it doesn't make any sense. I know Resident Evil doesn't ever make sense, but it was so unserious about it. The way they pace Nemesis's mutation is just so bad because you really never get to see Nemesis in his base form for most part of the game. Mercenaries was also cut for whatever fucking reason, which is a criticism I have for all 3 of the remakes besides 4, because that was after Resident Evil 3. Those games were made way after Resident Evil 3. But why cut Mercenaries from the remake of the game that literally introduced it? I mean, I can say this game has more content than Call of Duty Vanguard. The choices you make in the game are cut and makes the story more linear, and they kind of just cheap out on alternative cutscenes, which kind of ruins the whole vibe of Resident Evil 3 and what made it so unique, which is something I just hate in the Resident Evil modern remakes. The models and level design just lack art style too, but that's been a huge problem with Resident Evil since like Resident Evil 5. The game is just so short because of how half-assed and cut down it is, and it pains me. I mean, the game has some replayability, right? I guess, but it's so easy to get all the achievements and unlock everything in the game just by completing it a couple times. Wow. Sure, the original game didn't have much replayability, but the game wasn't linear with its storytelling, and you could get alternate cutscenes and fights with the choice systems and where you would go at certain points in the game. Not to mention how painfully easy this game is. The original Resident Evil 3's hard mode was basically just normal mode, but it kicked your fucking ass so much because it wasn't fucking around and made you feel powerless and hopeless, as the games should make you feel. In 3 Remake, I feel like a fucking god half the time, with how much ammo I'm stacked up with and how easy it is to kill the enemies. The only challenge you really have to face in the game is the dog shit hit detection. A zombie could be 5 miles away from me and I'd still somehow bite me. And why the hell did they nerf the knife system? Yeah, the knife from the Resident Evil 2 remake, the one that would break if you use it so many times, is gone. Unless you need to break boxes or some shit. The only way to really prevent most damage is spamming A. Wow. How does removing this make the game better? Well, if the game sucks, how's the story? Or the characters, you might ask. Dog. I shit you not, this was literally the one thing they intentionally fucked up or got lazy on, because how do you butcher such a masterpiece of a story? They put certain parts and areas in different parts of the story and just remove the impact of those scenes in the story. And dude, what the fuck did they do to Jill? Jill fucking Valentine. They butchered her character arc and her personality so bad, I can't even go into detail right now because I want to save that for another video. The game just feels so unlike the original, and I know remakes change things, but they just changed it so much where it's just unrecognizable. And I shit you not, this game is so rushed and unfinished. Not because of the cut content or the half-assed things they do in the game. I've gotten duplicated furniture when it's in the cutscenes, texture pop-ins, and literally out of fucking bounds. Resident Evil is pretty well known for its atmosphere and I guess the music, but even that shit's lacking in this game. I know I've praised the save theme, but I feel like that's really the only good song on the soundtrack. Well, that and the original Resident Evil 2 credits song in the donut shop. I don't give a fuck if it's trying to be a more realistic take on Resident Evil. 1, Resident Evil has never been serious or realistic. And 2, the music is what made a lot of the atmosphere so good in the games. Like, dude, you could have done what Resident Evil 2 Remake did and let us have the original soundtrack from the original game, but no. No, Capcom, you can't make any fucking kind of money. You hate money, unless you get to rush it. The atmosphere was just so non-existent. Even in the bad Resident Evil games, there's still an atmosphere, but there's nothing here. I feel absolutely nothing when I play this game because of the lack of its atmosphere. Dog, this was $60. I might have missed some points and skimmed over things, but most of it is because I don't want to make the video too long and I want to talk about the other games. And a lot of these I just want to save for a bigger video that I'm working on. But I will say, I love this game. I love it a lot. I replay it every year or so. Don't take it as I hate this game. It was just disappointing as a remake and disappointing as a game. Remake this remake, Capcom.